Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Jay Hellskull, wow that's an aggressive name, playing in the Tier 6 Premium American Medium Tank. It is the M4A3E8 Thunderbolt, bit of a tongue twister that, and that's why lots of people call the standard variant of this vehicle the Easy 8. Now the Thunderbolt went into the game earlier this year, and it's famous because it was crewed by Creighton Abrams in World War II. And when it went into the game, I thought, wow, this is a pretty nice vehicle. Why? Because it sacrifices some of its mobility and a little bit of its DPM to be able to gain improved gun handling, and that was something that really held the Easy 8 back. That while its rate of fire was exceptional, its gun handling meant that you were aiming for more than you were actually firing in the vehicle. And also frontal hull armor, as we are going to see through this replay here. The raw armor on the front of this tank is 123mm on the upper plate, but is very well angled, which means that even if you're not using any of your gun depression, you're not angling the tank to the left or to the right to improve the angling on your frontal hull armor, you've got 177mm of effective armor. Now that's enough to bounce all Tier 6s, most Tier 7s, and even, you know, those Tier 8s, the worst possible matchmaking for this tank, are still going to bounce off the front of this vehicle, you know, fairly reliably. Not all Tier 8s, mind you, especially now that penetration seems to be going up and up and up. But should we say some of the older Tier 8 premium tanks with preferential matchmaking that are still in the game, they're going to have a hard time to get through the front of a Thunderbolt, and that can really surprise them. And furthermore, when you're using the 10 degrees of gun depression this tank has, you have 210mm of effective frontal hull armor when you are using that depression. Utterly incredible. And so there we go. Hellskull basically just bounces that Tiger 131. That 220 damage will not be entering his tank, and so he can just drive around like an absolute madman. Now, of course, the Thunderbolt is going to do much better in a matchup like this when you're top tier than when you're having to engage Tier 8 tanks. And then you'd probably rather be in the regular Easy 8. Why? Because maybe you can sit on a ridgeline and use the 12 degrees of gun depression that tank has, the improved rate of fire, and maybe you can use your mobility instead of depending on armor that isn't really going to work against Tier 8s and some Tier 7s about keeping you in the game. But one thing that I really like about the Thunderbolt is that it comes with a Brothers in Arms crew for free. But whether I like that or thinking about it, do I really like that? I'll talk about that more in a second. And I'm going to focus now on what Jay Hellskull is doing here. And he is going to have to get back towards the base to try and protect it from a ridiculous number of enemy tanks. Now this 76mm that this vehicle has, it doesn't really pack the best penetration, only 128mm on its standard ammunition, and if you want to fire premium on this vehicle then the penetration goes up to 177, which is another reason why this vehicle doesn't do so well in a bad matchup than, for example, the Cromwell Berlin, which is packing more like 145mm of penetration on its standard rounds and 200mm on its premium rounds. Oh wow, that looks just does a 360, ends up going in the same direction. Jay Hellskull tracks the looks momentarily, but quick reactions there by the looks, manages to get the tracks back on. But Hellskull shuts down the ELC AMX with a good hit to the turret there, but is getting shot in the back here by the Churchill. Okay, so 1 minute left on this cap circle, and now Jay Hellskull finds themselves in a 1 versus 9 situation. And I like what they do here. They decide to get their butt in cover because, of course, when you're focusing all of your armor towards the front part of your tank, maybe that Churchill won't stay in the cap circle. So 1 down, T-28 vanquished, now a 1 versus 8. A Hetzer comes around and fires an armor-piercing round with a 105mm derp, and the Lux tries to take the opportunity to flank the Thunderbolt, but Jay Hellskull just turns his arm around enough to be able to finish off the Lux, then finish off a Hetzer. Now the Su-76G fires a premium round, but it bounces 160 damage absorbed there by the front of the tank. He finishes off the Chinese tank destroyer and pretty much cooks up that AMX-13 F3 in a shot with a fire. Now the Churchill's left the cap circle and decides to come forwards as well. What would be going through your mind right now if you were this Churchill? How the hell do I get through the front of this tank? And the Churchill seems to be shooting all different parts of the vehicle, albeit too late as Hellskull finishes him off and picks up his 10th kill of the game. Changing his 1 versus 9, wasn't it? No, into a 1 versus 2, but unfortunately that Stug 4 managed to actually penetrate the lower plate there of the Thunderbolt, Those are the weaknesses of this tank. Well, actually, the shell didn't go through the lower plate. Maybe he was over-angling there and he went in through the side. But the key weakness is, if you're wondering how to penetrate this tank, if you can't get the side, shoot through the machine gun port there. That whole spacing on the front of the tank doesn't exist there. And also nail this thing in the lower plate. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you're likely to see a lot more of these now in the game, as Wargaming have it currently in their advent calendar. Oh wow, Hetzer around the front. This Hetzer's firing high explosive rounds, however, but only 7 damage done to the front of the vehicle, and that allows J Hellskull to... Whoa, looks like the Hetzer thought he was going to go to his right there, and he has a little bit of a move to the left. And Hellskull finishes him off, picking up his 12th kill as he narrowly avoids death to the artillery. Okay, now that the commentary has died down there a little bit, holy moly, that was a serious 2 or 3 minutes burst of combat. And J Hellskull on 12 kills, absolutely ridiculous gameplay here, showing you all the strengths of this vehicle, and that is basically a decent gun handling, fairly okay DPM, and frontal hull armor. Of course, I'd like to stress that this tank is almost designed for this kind of a matchup and this kind of a scenario. It really struggles against higher tier tanks and even some equal tier tanks to be able to penetrate with a lowly 128mm of penetration. And one thing that Hellskull has been doing to compensate for that is dabbing that 2-key, loading the gold, and he's now got 177mm of penetration. So we're going to see how that affects his profitability after the game. But there's one thing that is absolutely brilliant about this tank, and it was one of the reasons why I purchased the vehicle myself as well, even though I'd buy anything that Wargaming released. That's how much of a tank collector I am. Whether that's pathetic or not, I don't care what you think, but I've got a lot invested in this game, and I want to be able to get these vehicles so I can play them on stream and also so I can review them for you, although Wargaming sometimes give us review counts as well. But what I'm trying to say is that this tank comes with a Brothers in Arms crew as free. Or the crew is trained up to 100%, so you don't have to invest the gold in training them up. And they also get Brothers in Arms completely for free. And that's a skill that you're definitely going to take within your first 3 skills on a crew. And when you're playing your premium tanks, a lot of people like to be able to get up to that 3, 4, even 5. Some crazy people even go to 6 skills, although I've never done that on a crew that is not a premium crew. And the reason why I say that, and when I say a premium crew, I mean one that you would get with the Brothers in Arms for free when you purchase a premium tank. And that's because, you know, when you get that Brothers in Arms for free, you can get to 6 skills, but it would only take you as long as it would do on a 5-skill crew. And one thing that's absolutely bizarre about that is that it would take just as long to go from your 5th skill to your 6th skill on a non-premium tank as it would do to be able to go all the way to 6 on a brand new premium crew. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I just want to talk through a little bit. And while hopefully, as I highlighted, the tank is remarkable in a good matchup, it isn't brilliant in a bad matchup, and so that's why I wouldn't thoroughly recommend it as a vehicle within its own right, especially for the £12.37 price tag. But it's this Brothers in Arms crew that is absolutely ridiculous. And to give you an example of the difference, let's take a look at Major Henry Townsend, who is in my Sheridan. He's the commander of the vehicle, and he has fought 1,500 battles, gaining 929 experience on average. Now, Henry is your bog standard run-of-the-mill crew member, but when I purchased the Thunderbolt earlier this year, I decided to put Major Creighton Abrams into my T-57 Heavy. And you see how Creighton Abrams is actually at 62% of his 5th skill, more experienced than Henry is. But just take a look at the difference in the number of battles that these two have participated in. Creighton has fought 199 battles, while Henry has fought 1,541. And that's because Creighton learns skills as if his Brothers in Arms wasn't there at all. And so effectively, he's only just on his 4th skill, at least with regards to experience gains. Now, in a way, this is both good and bad. Obviously, Wargaming want to try and monetize their game, and one way that they try and do it is to speed up your progression. And you could always argue, well, nothing's stopping you from just investing the extra time to be able to get the extra crew skills on a non-premium crew member. But then you have to consider just how much of an advantage is it to have your 5th or your 6th skill, and how many thousands of battles you're going to have to fight to be able to achieve that. Whereas if you get out that credit card and flash a little bit, then you can achieve it in hundreds of battles instead. Now, while the differences are certainly only likely to be minor, we're talking about maybe having 5% extra view range because you can have recon on your commander and situational awareness on your your radio operator. There's no doubt that these are significant advantages. And one thing that really annoys me as a player is that some of my most experienced crews in the game that I have worked to be able to boost up as high as I possibly can. For example, Major Woody Cocker in my Comet, who as well has fought 1,278 battles with 1,220 average experience. He's still stuck at 92% of his 5th skill, whereas when we look at my Object 140 commander, who I took from the Rudy, he's already up to his 6th, nearly getting towards his 7th, but he's done it in less battles because, again, that Brothers in Arms is free. And so personally, for me at least, because there are these new Brothers in Arms crews, it kind of makes me feel a little bit disappointed in some of the crews that I've spent so long actively playing over the years. And while I'm not going to sit here and argue whether this is pay to win or pay to have an advantage, that's not what the point of this video is. What I'm trying to highlight to all of you out there who are very keen World of Tanks players, if you're somebody who loves to grind crews, just realize how much of an advantage it is to have Brothers in Arms for free and how it is going to save you thousands of battles if your dream is to have a 6 or even a 7 skill crew in World of Tanks. But back to the hero of this video, and that is Jay Hellskull. He picks up a Kolobanos medal, the one that everyone wants, for standing alone against at least 5, in this case 9. Pascucci's medal for killing 2 enemy self-propelled guns. A Pools medal for his 13 kills, 1 short for the rarest of them all, the Rezanai Heroes medal. A High Caliber for his 3,633 damage dealt. This was a really good ace tank, a 1,959 base. And Nadin's medal for destroying all of the enemy light tanks. And that's actually exceptionally hard to do at low tiers, because obviously way more of their tanks are going to be lights compared to the higher tiers. And a steel wall, unsurprisingly, for the Thunderbolt in this kind of a matchup, blocking 2,185 damage, enough to kill the vehicle 3 times over. And did he make a profit here where he spent 45,000 credits on ammunition? But even without a premium account, he would have made a little bit of a profit, and with a premium account, 32,000 credits. So I guess that the Thunderbolt can be afforded to be played like this. But I have to admit, in a worse matchup than this, you would be bouncing APCR ammunition. So once again, I'd like to stress that this is not an incredible tank outside of a very good matchup. But nevertheless, Jay Hellskull, congratulations to you on this mammoth replay. I hope I can ever have anything like this personally in a Thunderbolt. But anyway, that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down and let me know why. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on Brothers in Arms for free crew, premium crew, whatever you want to be calling them. Do you have a problem with it in World of Tanks? Or do you have absolutely no problem with them whatsoever? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.